Now I'm recording. There we go. It will be recorded and we will be having the replay up on our YouTube channel. We are streaming live on Facebook as well. So this replay will be on our YouTube channel and it will be available if you subscribe to YouTube, or I'm sorry, to findcalmhere.com. And you'll get the replay in your inbox as well as any other events that are upcoming. So with that, I am going to toss it over to our speaker of the evening. We're going to start with Devaney. Welcome, Devaney.
Hi, thank you. My name is Devaney LaDrew. Stacy and I founded Cardigan Academy, and we're going to do our individual introductions. So just a little bit about me. I went to school for early childhood education with a minor in educational philosophy or psychology. And why I mention that is because the mental health component is always part of what I do, both as a teacher and also as a mom now homeschooling my own kids. I taught private and public kindergarten, and then when I had my own children, I decided to stay home with them. Never intended to homeschool, but I started doing a educational website called Still Playing School, just to kind of share what I was doing when my kids were toddlers and preschoolers, taking that teaching background and implementing it through play with my own kids. And then through that, they both went to a traditional preschool, but we were finding that it was really interfering with our family time. So my husband and I reflected back on our own educational experiences and did some research, talked to some other homeschoolers, including Stacy and her family, and decided we were going to give this a shot a year at a time. And we would always reevaluate and see if it was still working for us. And we are in our 7th year of homeschooling now. My kids are 7 and 10, so they're in 5th and 2nd grade. We love it for a lot of different reasons that we'll share tonight. But I could not have done it without the homeschool community that Stacy and her family founded locally here for us. It's all about community, and that's part of what we want to reestablish through Cardigan Academy. We wanted to bring that to people virtually to reach more people this year. Oh, I see Stacy now. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I apologize. My internet just totally clunked out on me on my computer right as we were getting ready to start. So yeah, were you done introducing yourself, Devaney?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Stacy. My background is that I am a mental health therapist. My kids are 20 and 17, and they have homeschooled from the beginning. It wasn't always part of our plan to homeschool. Once we started, there was no looking back. We've absolutely loved it. And we even check in with our kids yearly to ask if this is still going well. How do you feel? Would you like to go to public school? And I often let people know that I'm a huge supporter of public schools and public school teachers. I'm glad I have the option that I can homeschool, but I fully support public schools. And when people ask me if I'm resentful of paying property taxes when we also, pay for our homeschooling, my answer is always no, I don't mind, because we live in a community and I think it's good for people to be educated. So that being said, yeah, this is just something that just fits our family. We're a pretty close-knit family. We like to spend time together. We got into homeschooling. Some of you, I know some of you have been to some of our presentations, have heard this before, but we got into homeschooling because a friend recommended a book, and I trusted her so much because we have similar parenting philosophies that I uncharacteristically did not research the book, and I just ordered it. I never do that. When the book arrived, it was a book about homeschooling, and I thought, uh-oh, why do I have a book about homeschooling? What is this? I thought it was a parenting book. My husband started reading it, and he's the one that said, I think this would be great for our family. So we got into it. We'll cover a lot of stuff tonight, but just something I want to mention. My daughter's 20 and in college. She's on leave right now because of COVID, but we homeschooled the whole time. She had no problem getting into college. In fact, she got into all 5 colleges to which she applied and got scholarships at all of them. She was able to do a whole bunch of dual enrollment classes during high school at Hack. So she even started college with over a year of credits. And our kids are really involved in the community. They both do like theater and computer stuff and gaming and writing. And like Devaney said, we started a homeschool group here about 15 years ago. And that's where I met Devaney and have met some of the coolest people I know here. So that's kind of my background. Is Devaney and I basically, I guess I'll get into Cardigan Academy, especially with the pandemic. Devaney and I always get a lot of questions from people about homeschooling, but I would say especially with the pandemic, we were getting inundated. And I said to her, I'm getting so many questions. And she said, I'm getting so many questions. And we realized that there was this need. People had a need that suddenly they were taking on homeschooling, maybe not because it's something they always wanted to do. For some it was, but some it was almost like they were being thrust into this position. And I can't even imagine what that must be like, because it's overwhelming even when you choose, like, oh, yay, I'm going to homeschool. But to have a global pandemic and suddenly say, oh, I'm going to homeschool, I can understand why people were feeling overwhelmed. So we started Cardigan Academy. The name comes from the fact that both Devaney and I are huge fans of Mr. Rogers. And it also comes from the idea of, over the years in our homeschool group, we have learned a lot from other homeschool parents just sitting on a park bench at the park, swapping ideas. I found this curriculum, I found this thing, and just sharing ideas and trial and error. And we've been doing this for all these years. And so we started Cardigan Academy. That, to me, I love cardigans. I'm wearing one now. I am not a fashion person. I don't care about that stuff, but I do love cardigans, and they just feel cozy to me, and there's something about them. The Mr. Rogers thing, the hanging out at the park with homeschool parents at the beginning of fall and swapping ideas, thus the name Cardigan Academy. And what we basically do is meet with people who come to us and let us know if they are working from home, if their kids are learning through district schooling, homeschooling, cyber schooling, whatever their situation is. Maybe they have kids doing multiple things. We have a lot of families where one child does virtual and one child does homeschool and another child goes to public school. You know, it's a mix. And so we learn all about the family, all about their situation, all about the kids. And Devaney and I meet with the family, and then we together, and this is fun for us, we take all that information and we come up with an individualized plan. Curriculum, schedule, extra fun stuff, you name it. It's just very tailor-made for each family. And the feedback that we have gotten from these families has essentially been, I went from scared and overwhelmed to excited and feeling confident that we can do this. And then we have different ways of communicating with people. We have a website that actually it's a great website, www.cardiganacademy.com. Has a lot of the information there about who we are and what we do and our services. And we have a Facebook page, Cardigan Academy. Instagram, the Cardigan Academy was taken, so on Instagram we are the Cardigan Academy. So you can find us at any of those places, and we always post whenever we do any kind of live event like this, because I know a lot of people are looking for tips and things. And Devaney can tell you about some of the other things we offer.
Yeah, sure. This year is so unique because in addition to homeschooling, traditional homeschooling is what Stacy and I do with our families. So that means we choose the curriculum, we choose the way we teach or the way our kids learn to best fit them. Cyber is a little different. It is another way that people were doing homeschooling before the pandemic, where you would be signing onto a computer and the curriculum and the teachers would be provided for you, but you were still doing it from home. And now this year, there's all these new options from your school districts as well. There's virtual and hybrid and asynchronous and synchronous. More than we could ever name, probably, because everybody is calling it different things and every district seems to have their own take on it. But we just wanted to let you know, no matter which way you're teaching your kids at home, we can help you at Cardigan Academy. We have one-on-one coaching sessions that we're doing with people where we'll meet, like Stacy said, with you and talk to you about the individual needs of your family and your kids, really get to know you as a family unit and come up with a plan with schedules and techniques that we have tried in our home that have worked well. The other thing we're doing is we're doing monthly Parents Lounge virtual meetings, and we pick a topic every month. It's the last Monday of every month. And so we'll have a loosely based topic that we will cover, but then we also want to recreate that community that we had on the park bench through our homeschool group virtually for people. So if you join us for one of those, there will be a lot of back and forth conversation. What's going well? What's not working? What can we help you with? So I think that's most of what we're offering right now. And like I said, this year is so unique that Stacy is going to give kind of an overview of how we're all handling it or not handling it.
I think one of the things I love about working with Devaney is besides the fact that we are friends, and so it's fun that we get to do this, but also we have very similar parenting and home education philosophies. And again, some of you have heard this, but Devaney's kids are younger than my kids, but from the very first day, actually my husband was the one at the park for some kind of homeschool thing with the kids. And he came home and he said, oh my word, there's this family and her little girl reminds me so much of our daughter at that age. And then as we talk about our sons, they have similar personalities. They have the same age difference, older daughter, younger son. It's just, it's uncanny. And so it's kind of cool because I have older kids, she has younger kids, she brings an education background, I bring a mental health background, and together somehow we kind of cover all this stuff. So 2020, yeah, 0 stars, do not recommend this global pandemic. And I think the concept of finding calm in a time like this is so necessary and so needed. So a couple thoughts I have on that, and this is something that we share with our families and homeschoolers that we know, and we, Devaney and I, even remind each other and ourselves, is that this is just a weird year. No matter what you're doing, if you are cyber schooling, if you are virtual schooling, if you are district schooling, homeschooling, whatever you are doing, this is a weird year, and your kid's not going to get behind, because behind what? Everyone's having a weird year. Everyone's having a strange year. So often, like, reminding yourself of that might just bring a little bit of that, oh, okay. As awful as a global pandemic is, there's something about it where we've sort of pulled out of the rat race a little bit. And a lot of families are finding calm actually by not running around so much and by being home more. There's challenges, but there are good things about it. So we remind everybody to give everyone a lot of extra grace, space this year. Recognize that we are all experiencing a shared traumatic experience. So it is as simple as meeting your kids where they are, honoring who they are, and honoring your own limits too, so that you are not stretched thin. This may sound crazy, but depending on the ages of your kids, I would even propose that you could plan and do relatively little this year, except focus on your kids, play with your kids, and help them not be stressed and keep them healthy. And I would absolutely call that a win, and your child will thrive in the future and won't be behind. I don't love the concept of all the time of keeping up unless you're temporarily homeschooling and planning to go back. But even then, kids who are going to school right now, this is a weird year for everybody. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. We always start our year and even our day with something we love. So if you are doing traditional homeschooling and you have a little bit more freedom on your schedule, start with what you are passionate about, fit in times for what your kids love most, start your day on those things. Sometimes we feel like we have to do, math first because that's what we don't like, or that's the hardest, or that's going to take the most mental energy. And that definitely works for some people. But maybe you can do a quick board game first. Maybe you can slow it down around breakfast and have some conversation. If you're doing virtual or cyber and you don't have that much flexibility first thing because you got to log on and you got to make sure your kids are there for attendance, maybe you're ending your day with something positive with your kids, reconnecting. Stacy and I are always talking about different points in the day that you're trying to reconnect with your kids. My son needs that in the middle of the day. It used to be his nap time. Now it's quiet time, and he still likes me right beside him. In fact, today, Stacy and I were doing some Cardigan Academy work, and I said, I am trapped under my son right now. So I'll get to you when I can. But we just really want to remind people that it's going to take a while to establish the rhythm and the routines of the year, and that's going to happen. It happened in the classroom when I was a teacher, and that it's constantly okay to be reevaluating and changing your plan. And so I'm even going to put it out there that if you are doing virtual or cyber right now and that's not working this year for your kid, one of your options would be to pull them and completely homeschool. And I know it might sound overwhelming, but if you come to us at Cardigan Academy, we can help you with the paperwork. I know some districts are telling parents, you know, you have to lock in for a certain amount of time, but you can pull your kids and homeschool them at any time. That is the Pennsylvania homeschooling law, at least in our state. So I just want to remind you that you can make changes based on what's best for your kids and your family.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's good to know that you're I don't like feeling trapped. That's a horrible feeling. Like if you've ever been in an awful job, but you feel like you kind of have to for the benefits or whatever, it's an awful feeling. It's a terrible feeling. And so if that helps you feel less trapped, then think about it. And I'm going to be also very honest with you. I've done a lot of classes on homeschooling and cyberschooling, and different things work for different kids. Different things work for different families. So I am going to be very honest with you that no matter what you choose, it's all some level of work and pros and cons. So it's not like I'm going to say, oh, homeschooling is so easy and cyber so hard, or vice versa. There are things about each one that are helpful and things that are a lot of work. Same with public schooling. So it's all about like choosing, I don't want to say pick your poison because that's like a kind of a negative way to look at it, but it's all about choosing the thing where you like the pros and you'll put up with the cons, because nothing's perfect, especially depending on whether you are working full time or all the different things that are going on in your family. So it really, like, I've had times where we're homeschooling and a lot of things we do is just sort of natural life learning and having a great time. And I'll talk to a friend whose kids are in public school, and sometimes I think, wow, so her kids are out of the house for like 6 hours a day that she does whatever she wants. Wow. But then she talks about how many papers she has to sign and things she has to keep up in and stuff she has to send in to the classroom, and it's someone's birthday and now you're making cupcakes. And like, honestly, I heard the things she had to do and it was way more work than I was doing. So it's really a matter of choosing what you are willing to take on and what you are willing to sort of like, I guess, put up with. Another thing we remind our clients of right now, and this relates to finding calm and home education, is there's this idea with the global pandemic and COVID-19 of what we're missing out on. I see a lot of people doing that. Oh, we're missing this. And they're trying to like recreate it or keep things normal during a very abnormal time, which I think is, I'm noticing that it seems to me that some people who are doing that are perpetually frustrated. They are trying to experience normalcy during something that is objectively abnormal. And so instead of focusing on what we're missing out on, having some level of acceptance of what is, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. This is not normal. Doing that and then looking at it more as what can we get to do because of this, rather than what we're missing out on, is just a little perspective shift that can bring a lot of peace. So also someday, this is going to be in our rearview mirror. Someday we're going to look back on this. Someday we're going to say, remember when we went through that global pandemic? And so what are we going to look back on? What are your kids going to look back on? Like, so in the summer, our family loves to go out for ice cream. We didn't do that this summer. And we have an ice cream machine to make homemade ice cream. And it's never gotten more use than it did this summer, because we were sort of like, well, we can't go out for ice cream. What if we made our own? And it was delicious. And we kept doing it. We kept making more ice cream. And I think that is a pandemic memory for us, We also made some like spoof videos just because we wanted to cheer up our friends. And it was all like spoof about the pandemic. Like we went in the car and did like a carpool karaoke and recorded ourselves singing Sweet Caroline. But I'm in the back as the frazzled mom saying, stop touching, stop touching. And it was just fun. And so I think looking at it and accepting what is and finding a way to have fun and bring in good memories from it is a better approach than forcing normalcy. That makes some special memories.
We're also going to share tips, tricks, systems that work both for us and for our kids tonight. But I wanted to preface this by saying, just like Stacy said with home education choices, what works for one family might not work for another, and sometimes even within an exact same family like mine, what works for my daughter might not necessarily be a good fit for my son. So just like homeschooling, we're always telling our clients that we want you to change your thought from teacher student, parent teaching a child, to facilitating learning beside your kids. You're doing it with them. You're getting lost in interests of theirs and supplying them with books and materials to explore that further. In that same regard, I want you to think about providing different structures and routines for your kids that may or may not work for them. So it's okay to throw the schedule you make out at the end of the month and rewrite it, or it's okay to have it for one of your kids that would really benefit from it, and the other one that's going to be overwhelming for him. And that's totally normal, and that's a life lesson for our kids, right? That's a way that they'll continue to find calm in their life, in getting ideas from others and through the community, but also taking what works and letting go of the rest. You haven't failed if you are letting go of routine or a schedule that doesn't work for you. You're learning more about yourself and reflecting on that. I'm going to also suggest that you involve your kids as much as possible in the planning of the schedule. So, excuse me, if you have a hard time getting your kid up in the morning to get on the computer for virtual school, for example, a way that I would approach it in my home is by saying to my son or daughter, I'm noticing, whatever the problem is, I'm noticing you're having a hard time getting up and getting started in the morning. What could we do to make mornings go a little bit smoother? Sometimes my kids have ideas that I haven't even thought of. If I could pick out my clothes the night before, if you could remind me what my breakfast options are, could we put that on a Post-it on front of the fridge so that I know ways to streamline your days, your routines, and your schedules? Your kids will have ideas sometimes that you didn't even think of. Another thing we do is I label everything. I have a label maker, and this isn't just a home education hack. This is like a parenting life hack because I need some of this. What happened was when I started teaching kindergarten, I had 25 to 35-year-olds walk into my classroom at the beginning of the school year. Their parents had tied their shoes, zipped up their coats, packed their backpacks, put their homework in the folder. They would say to me, my mom didn't put my homework in my folder. And I would say, is it your mom's homework or is it your homework? So what I had to do in my classroom was help the kids help themselves so that I wasn't zipping 25 jackets before we went outside for recess. So a way I do that in my own home is with a label maker. I label where stuff goes so my kids know where it is when they need it, but they also know where to put it back. And then we all know where to find it. Even my husband sometimes can benefit from the fact that I'm labeling where things go. So he doesn't have to pull me from something else to ask me about that. So that's something that helped me as a teacher, that also helps me as a mom, that can help with home education for sure. I also want you to think about this beginning of the school year time as a time investment, okay? So as I was spending time teaching my kindergartners how to put their homework in their folder, put it in their backpack and zip it up, that took a lot of our time in August, September, sometimes even into October. But I was setting us up to be a very smoothly running classroom by November usually. And so I want you to think about that with your own kids at home now too. For example, my son needed to be writing the date on some of his homeschool work. And I had to take some time this week to walk him over to the calendar and show him how we can find the date. So he doesn't have to say to me every day, Mom, what's the date today? If you're doing virtual or cyber, that might look like helping your kids and maybe even making a list of their login process so that they can start taking some ownership over that. So you're not doing 12 things at once in the morning before you've even had your coffee. I'm not a morning person. And so as much as I can get my kids to do on their own in the morning is beneficial. So this is the kind of thing that we also provide through Cardigan Academy. I just wanted to show you some examples of schedules because this is something you could definitely come to us for, or this is something that you could be doing with your own kids. This is a client's home education. This was a traditional homeschooler, but mom is working from home. So we helped make a routine for her. This is something my kids and I have used when they were younger for things they needed to do in the morning before they could even, if they did all this and we hadn't started homeschool yet, then the rest of the time in the morning was theirs. So they knew what they needed to get accomplished. Is this coming up backwards when I'm holding it up, or is that just for me? Okay, good. And here's another one. This was when my kids were a little bit younger. We would just check off, have you done anything creative today? What have you played? Have you done anything that's moving your body? So again, very loosely structured, but you can see how it could be adapted to cyber, virtual, any type of home education.
I like that what you just said about how it's sort of like a general thing, but they would choose within it, because I feel like instead of them being like robotically, oh, I'm going to do 10 jumping jacks now because I was told to do 10 jumping jacks, they are learning a principle that moving is good, that physical activity is good, and they're getting to know themselves and say, oh, I like this kind of exercise, or I tried that and didn't like it. Because I think that's what we do as adults. I'm in my 40s and still trying to figure out, you know, what exercise I like and don't like. So why would we expect kids to not do the same? That is a life lesson.
I wanted to point out the fact, just as a side note, I mean, there are adults that take courses to learn how to build morning routines into their life. So if you can incorporate this at a young age, how awesome is, like, I'm just kind of like, man, this is awesome. Like, I wish I would have had that as a kid. So bravo to you guys for just starting to implement these actions for people, for your own kids and for other children early in life. Because when you have that morning routine, the whole reason I started Find Calm Here was around those principles of finding some daily routines, and then I created change in my life in that way. And that's kind of the tools and the tips of what I used is why we have Find Calm Here. So I just wanted to point that out because it was such synchronicity with everything. So thank you.
I love that. I love that. I remember the first time I met with you, Deb, that came up about routine and schedule. I hadn't even thought about that. You're absolutely right. And speaking of schedules and routines, I'm going to just echo what Devaney said about tweaking, constant tweaking. If you have a schedule that's not working for you and you just keep forcing yourself to do it, you're going to be miserable. Our family, we are overall a family of, it's a mix, kind of night owls. So we tend to do our stuff later in the day, and we even sleep in a little. I don't get up. My kids do not get up at the same time they would if they were catching a bus. And some people would say, like, oh, shouldn't your kids be learning how to get up? No, why? Like, they'll be fine. And my daughter has gone to college and taken an 8 a.m. class and gotten there no problem. So it's like, we all figure this out as adults. I as an adult, have had jobs that started early in the morning. I got there. Or in the afternoon, I got there. In the evening, I got there. Like, we can learn as we go. If anything, the best thing to teach your kids is to learn as you go. So you can tweak that schedule daily, weekly, monthly. We every year start out with some kind of plan and inevitably tweak it a little bit.
Well, and I also think that again, it's a life lesson, right, Stacey, that if you aren't a morning person, don't schedule those 8 a.m. classes in college. Maybe you're not going to be someone that works first shift at a job. Maybe you need to be someone that is taking on freelance stuff at night instead. So again, we're teaching our kids to honor who they are as individuals and get life to fit around them instead of trying to get them to fit into a situation that's not working.
Yeah, and that's something I honestly didn't learn for myself until well into adulthood. So that when kids can learn this, yeah, like Deb said, how great is that? And at Cardigan Academy, we meet people where they are. We help honor the kids that you have. Like, so when someone says, my one child can't sit still, we go, okay, he needs to be active. Let's talk about how we can do that. If the other one is, this one, you know, my daughter is more introverted and needs downtime, and sometimes if we run around too much, she gets worn out. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's look at your schedule. Let's look at what you're doing. Let's see what we can do to make sure she has that recharge time. It's nice when we have we've got clients who we set them up, and then we meet monthly to check in and go over stuff. You know, how is this going? And they'll say 90% of it's going well, but this 10% not so much. What could we do? And so we ask some questions, we figure it out, and we come up with solutions. This is essentially like Cardigan Academy, and these services are all our years of trial and error and what we wish somebody could have done for us. So we love, I mean, it's seriously thrilling to help families do this. Devaney and I sincerely enjoy it so much. Every time we meet with our clients and we do this, we're texting each other afterwards saying, I can't believe we get to do this. I love this so much. So I will say, like, for myself, homeschooling my kids, a few things that have been very, very important to me have been to make sure my kids are always thriving. Now, does that mean 100% perfect days? No, just generally, are they progressing? Generally, are they happy? Generally, are they doing the things that make them come alive? I want them to have that. And if I ever feel like we're dipping in that area quite a bit, or even a little, I might go, okay, something's not working here. Again, what can we tweak? The other thing is, it's very important to me that my kids have, I've always wanted to foster curiosity and a hunger for learning. It's not so much about memorizing facts and dates and learning certain things, but knowing how to learn and wanting to learn. You know, and that's as simple as modeling for kids. Oh, I got so interested in this, and I found this lecture online, and I listened to it, and then I found this book. This is how we learn. This is how we all learn naturally. This is how we learned as little babies and toddlers before school, and this is how we learn as adults after college and grad school and whatever. This is natural learning, and so helping our kids have that. And over the past several years, I've learned more and more about growth mindset, which has been a great thing for this perfectionist. Understanding that there's really no such thing as failure, that we learn from mistakes, that it's not about grades and scores, it's about learning. So those things, that hunger to learn, curiosity, growth mindset, kids thriving, that's all been really important. And just want to repeat how important it is to connect with your kids. Again, honoring who they are. We've done stuff like I have parent-child notebooks with my kids where I'll like write them messages and then leave it on their pillow, and then they get to read what I wrote to them, and then they write back. And we learn a lot about each other that way, and it's a way to connect. One time we had our kids do report cards about us, because we don't really grade our kids, because it's not about grade. We're learning, but they graded us, and we learned some things. In our family, we play a lot of games. We watch movies, and we binge watch TV shows, which I think has been a great way to talk about things with my kids. Everything from, you know, how to stay safe, to family dynamics, to mental health. There's so many conversations you can have, not just sitting and watching TV, but even talking about it. Like, wow, what did you think of that character? Did you notice that character arc, or, you know, anything? So for example, also connecting with your kids on the things they love. When they love something, ask them about it. Tell me more. Why do you love this? How did you find out about this? Oh, what are you going to do? Like, just like we like when people are interested to hear what we have to say, it's the same thing. So for example, my daughter is a writer. So she started a blog at the age of 8. She, to this day, has this blog, and she has networked with so many writers and authors all over the world through this thing. Because she loves it, we connected on that and fostered that. She loves musicals. One day she came to me and said, I would like to learn more about musicals. And I was like, okay, why don't we do musical Mondays? What if every Monday we watched a different musical? She said, okay. And now both my kids are totally into theater. Again, not when there's not a pandemic, they're very involved in theater. My son is a board game designer. So my husband and my son, when there's not a pandemic, go to these monthly board game design meetings, like coffee shop meetings, and they go to conventions. And my son's a gamer. He built his own computer. Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, what is their interest and what can we do more about it? another thing, another little trick we have, and this is nice for finding calm. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. We have this on our fridge, and it says, today and then it says, I'm great, I'm okay, I'm meh, I'm struggling, please check in with me. That one has a little broken heart. And then we're huge Harry Potter fans. So we have these little Harry Potter magnets, and I'm Neville, because I love Neville. But everyone's a character, and we just stick this whatever we're feeling that day. Everybody goes to the fridge multiple times a day. So if you ever go there and you see somebody low on the chart, you're like, oh, what's going on? And so I'll go up to that person, hey, I saw your magnet on the chart, what's up? And they're like, I don't know, I'm just feeling kind of blah. Or maybe they're feeling great and they have some great thing to share. But it's a nice way to just kind of connect and check in with each other. Again, mental health background is informing a lot of this. This is a feelings wheel. If you look this up on Google Images, you'll find a million copies of it. I cannot recommend it enough. It is a way for us to all get in touch with our feelings, which is a huge thing in mental health. A lot of adults don't know how to do it. Sometimes kids and adults have a hard time putting their finger on how they're feeling. It's sort of like, I don't know, I just feel off. And the way the wheel works is you start in the middle. So it's a very general one in the middle. So like, let's go with fearful. I'm feeling kind of fearful and I don't know what about what. Well, then when you go out from fearful, there's several things you can choose. And then from there, you can get even more specific. So you get really in tune with what's up, like what's up, what's going on. So those are a couple of little things that even stuff like that, we incorporate into curriculum and plans and schedules in Cardigan Academy, whether you are virtual schooling, cyber schooling, homeschooling, this is the stuff we do.
I just love that. I love working with Stacy. I loved sitting on the park bench next to her before we were working together and trading ideas like this. It's just always stuff that I can apply to my own family and my own kids. The one thing I wanted to suggest is you are spending so much mental energy now, especially if you're choosing home education that is new and different to you. You are spending so much mental energy in different ways that I want you to think about ways you can take other stuff off your mental to-do list. So for me, if I don't know what I'm making for dinner at night, I will spend all day thinking, oh, I still got to think what all day. And so we do meal delivery, which has been great. I know that 3 meals are coming to the house per week that I don't have to think about. That doesn't work for everybody's family. Maybe you do. We've also done soup and sandwiches every Monday, Taco Tuesday, just so you're taking some of that planning and mental energy out. You have more time to invest in your kids and the changes that they're going through with their education this year. And along that same thread and thinking about getting ideas from Stacy, she has a great idea for getting your kids to help a lot in the kitchen.
Yeah, I actually mentioned this in passing one time online, and Debbie's like, we're going to start doing that. But we love food. We're always in the kitchen. We're always cooking. Our kids are old enough. They are pretty self-sufficient in the kitchen at this point. And so we developed during this pandemic kitchen teams. Every day there are different teams of 2. Like my husband and I have one day together and the kids have one day together. Otherwise it's like parent kid. It's some kind of variety, set schedule. And that kitchen team is in charge of all the dishes the whole day and coming up with and making dinner. And it's just eased a lot of that emotional labor aspect for us. And I know we're probably running low on time and want to do Q&A. So we have a whole bunch of other great stuff here, but maybe we're going to cover it in Q&A. I was just going to say that it's important to know what your family's principles are, and whatever those are, incorporate that in your schooling, whatever you're doing, cyber, virtual, whatever it is. So like for us, I'm big on community and volunteering and things like that. So our kids have always volunteered. They have both volunteered at the library for years. We've done community cleanups. My son volunteers with a Big Brother, Little Brother program. Like not now with COVID, but he goes into the schools and volunteers with these kids. He's also, because we homeschool, we have a friend who's a 4th grade teacher, and she's like, hey, how would he like to come in and help 4th graders with like math and spelling? And I was like, that would be amazing. So he goes in there, and here's this, and it's in like inner city Lebanon. And here's this great 17-year-old kid who goes in, and the kids call him Mr. Max. And they just think some of these kids don't have the best role models in life or different things like that. He gets to go in and work with them, and he comes home so happy. So there's all these things you can incorporate? And I know Devaney's family also volunteers.
Yeah, that's how we met Stephanie, actually, through Meals on Wheels. We've done that. We've done pet shelter, going in and taking care of animals and, you know, changing their cages and feeding them, because I always want to show my kids that there's so many different foundations you can volunteer for, but there's also so many different things you can do within that. So if you are an introvert, you could be behind the scenes doing something. Whereas I'll never forget our first Meals on Wheels day. There was something about seeing those seniors that my kids saw who they were helping that, I mean, that brightens our homeschool schedule so much for the weeks that we did it. Deb, do we have time to do like some show and tell with some stuff, or do we have questions we need to do?
I don't have any questions except for one that I had
Okay.
Yeah,
at this point. And I know that I had friends that are doing the virtual schooling this year. And one of the things that came up that I mentioned to you guys about was you can't actually do traditional homeschooling right now because of COVID. And you've mentioned, Stacey's brought up a couple times that there's things that, you know, both of you have brought up things that you would do if things were open. And hopefully in the next few months, things will be opening. But until they do, is there things that you guys recommend? Like there's lots of state parks or national parks or places maybe of history or places that you can go that you might not need to go inside. I don't know if there's any places like that. I know our audience is global, but a lot of the people that are watching this are from Pennsylvania because we're all based in Pennsylvania. So if there is some feedback from that perspective, that I think would be helpful.
our family's been taking advantage right now. We're being really careful with the pandemic, so we don't go a whole lot of places. We do try to get outside every day. We go for walks. We do fun stuff in the backyard. We play bocce ball. We've been setting up a projector in the backyard and watching movies. And I will say, like, our kids do get together with friends who are also taking this seriously. You know, they come over, wear masks, and stay outside and sit apart. They bring their own chairs. And so I've been advising my kids that over these next couple of months that the weather's nice, to take advantage of getting together with friends as much as possible in a very safe way outside, to sort of store up those reserves, because come winter and flu season, it might get tricky again. But we've done virtual field trips. You can go hike trails. I have a friend who, I love this idea. She said their family's being really careful. They're now doing school from home because of COVID. And she said, but one day a week, they leave their house for 4 hours straight. They go on a hike, or they go to, like, I know some people have gone to like Lake Tobias and done like the outdoor safari, because you can do it in your own car.
Yep.
Going to the zoo. We actually play a lot of virtual games. It's called Jackbox games. So we get together with friends actually probably once a week online and play games. And we also use Netflix Party to watch movies with friends. So those are a few things off the top of my head. I don't know if you have any more, Devaney.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of the same things. Like, we have a tour scheduled next Tuesday for the Cornwall Iron Furnace is doing like a virtual tour. There's some people that I'm seeing more virtually now than I saw when I was able to go out face to face. And
right.
That's another conversation to be having with our kids. How do we foster friendships? How do we meet the needs of different people? Because some people are comfortable going out, some people aren't right now. And so that's a lot of conversations we've been having at home about the pandemic too.
Yeah.
What
did you want to share, Devaney? You were talking about sharing something.
Oh yeah, we have a couple. We thought we would do like a show and tell segment.
Yeah, sure. I love it.
So organizing, each of my kids has a bin that contains all of their stuff. So all of their curriculum, and you could do this if you're doing virtual. You could have a folder for each subject. We love to do these little page tabs at the top to organize where we are at. We have a checklist for what she has to get done. And then that all lives in this box. So if she wants to pick this up and go out on the deck with it on a nice day, she can do that. If she wants to be in her room because she needs some alone time to concentrate, she can do that as well. So that's one way that we organize our homeschool materials.
And we did this past year for our son, it's basically 2 small poster boards, but it's got the days of the week and the times of day, but it's blank, right? It's just a graph. But what we started to do, because he'd be involved in different musicals, he was in Footloose, actually at Cedar Crest High School, because in Pennsylvania, when you homeschool, you can do activities through whatever school district you're in. Our homeschool group is so active. We have book clubs and movie clubs and film clubs and chess clubs and D&D. And so we would stick these sticky notes like, oh, chess, what day? That's Tuesdays at the coffee shop at 1 o'clock. And so we'd stick it on there. He had Footloose rehearsals, but then when Footloose was over, he was in another show. So we switched those. We have volunteering, but also their classes like biology, English. And we would just, and sometimes we just make up new ones. Like if we say, man, we haven't played a game in a while, we'll grab a sticky note and say, play a game. And we say, well, why don't we do that tomorrow? Well, you have a space. Let's just do that. And sometimes you need to stop as a family and do something fun because everyone's overwhelmed. So rip a sticky note off and stick a more fun one on. That's okay to do that. Like, in fact, it's good to do that.
Yeah, we just did that this week. My son, we played a board game and then he was off creating his own game. And so I let the curriculum go for, the morning because I could see the educational value in what he was doing. And that's the beauty of homeschool, kind of letting them being able to run with those interests. But switching gears back to virtual and cyber, we've been getting a lot of questions from our clients at Cardigan Academy about how to keep kids focused when they do have to be logged into virtual classes. So I would suggest flexible seating if you have an exercise ball and they can sit on that. Fidgets, this one is like a silicone, almost like bubble wrap that you can pop. So my kids, if they have a computer class, I'm teaching some virtual classes right now, they might be playing with this quietly while they're attending to the virtual lecture.
I don't have it near me, but we also have fidget cubes, same idea. Mini trampoline, if your kid needs to get that energy out, but it's raining and you can't go anywhere, jump on the trampoline. Another thing we do is every November, we put up a huge poster board on a doorway or a wall, and we put markers and crayons nearby, and people just all throughout the month just write down stuff they're grateful for. And it can be friends or a TV show or anything. There's no rules, but just something to kind of keep us in that mode of gratitude. And along those lines, this is one of our favorite family traditions that has sort of evolved. It's a jar, and inside it's filled with papers. Basically, when somebody inadvertently says something funny, or just they say something funny and we all crack up, we write it on a piece of paper and we put it in the jar. And then on New Year's Eve, we pull them all out and read them. And usually some are from friends, family, whoever. And then people have to guess who said it, what the context was. So it's kind of a fun thing. One time we were just joking around and being sarcastic and we're like, we should put these in a jar. So now we do.
Dude, that's a great game. I want to start playing that game.
Yeah,
for real. Like, I don't feel like that you need to have kids to play that. I have jars for like affirmations, and I have jars for like things that I want to do, like places I want to travel. Well, I haven't updated it in a while, so you just gave me a new idea to update a jar. I love it.
And every time somebody says something funny, we're like, jar, and then we write, New Year's is so much fun.
That sounds amazing. That makes it so much more fun too. Like, I feel like you guys are just helping people make life a little bit more fun for everybody. I know we're coming up right at 8 o'clock. I haven't had any questions in the chat, and I've been checking Facebook, and I don't see any questions there. But if you guys did want to grab a question there, you can certainly unmute yourself or post it in the chat real quick at the end. I really want to thank you guys for coming on. It's been really entertaining, honestly, just to listen to all these different things that you're doing. And you have a website that has a bunch of these resources. Some of the things that you were talking about is listed on your website there, yeah?
Yeah, and we're also going to be continuing all these conversations in our Parents Lounge monthly chats as well.
Cool, yeah. And anybody who wants if you're in the Find Calm Here community, if you want to join the Find Calm Here community, it is free. And we do have both partners here in the Find Calm Here community, so we can continue this conversation in there and share resources in the Find Calm Here community. We do have events every week, so I do want to mention the events coming up for September. We have Find Calm with storytelling, with authentic storytelling, actually, with Cassidy. She is in Mexico. I met her when I was in Mexico in 2019, and she's a videographer, amazing graphic artist, and she's going to be presenting to us a little bit about authentic storytelling and how to tell authentic stories next week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then we have also Find Calm with CBD at the end of the month. So if you're interested in learning more about CBD, we have a partner that's from Montana. She's going to be talking about CBD. And we have, in the middle between those two, we have creative expression. That's what it is. Janet from the Central Penn Theater is going to be talking to us about creative expression and how you can use all of your amazing abilities and creatively express those in the world. So lots of really cool Find Calm Here events coming up in September. We've got a lot coming up in the rest of the year. I'm booked through December, and I'm now booking into 2021. So lots of cool events. Does anybody have questions? Does anybody have any thoughts, feelings, comments? Yes, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Okay. My one question is, and this is new for me, my children have both gone to public school until now. Now we're doing virtual. How do I bridge that, like, mom and educator kind of gap? Because like asking them to sit down and like, can you write me 5 sentences? They're like, not happening. You know, it's just, I feel like I get a lot of resistance. I'm trying to make it fun. I'm trying to just build the good pieces, but some days are great, and then the other days they're like, I hate this. Why didn't you let me go to school? And so I'm just curious if you have any tips on bridging that, like, gap.
Yeah, we do actually. I will say, first of all, that's totally normal, especially if they've already been in school. The benefit if a kid hasn't been in school is they got nothing to compare it to. But when they've been in school, they know that this is a teacher, but this is mom, or this is what I do at school, but this is home. And it's 2 different worlds. There are people out there that advocate something called deschooling, which is when you pull your kids from school for that next year, you de-school. In other words, you just don't do school. You let them be kids. You let them come back to who they are. They play, and you just work on that relationship. Get on the floor and play with them. Play a game with them. Cook with them. Just like be together. And then when you have that relationship, and you can then build on that. And I'll see if Devaney's got some ideas with that too.
I just completely agree. I would not put your relationship with your kids above I would put it above any academics. So if they are fighting you on those 5 sentences, take some of these ideas we've given you today to reconnect. And you know what? If they don't get the 5 sentences done, like Stacy said, nobody's going to be behind this year. It's more important for you to enjoy this time with your kids, no matter what type of home education you're choosing. It's better for them to have a relationship with you that is strong than to get those 5 sentences or whatever the assignment is done.
The other thing I would recommend too is having a we versus the problem approach rather than you versus the kid. So in other words, like sometimes I will even sit down and explain, here's what the state of Pennsylvania says we need to cover. And I don't want to get in trouble, and I want to make sure you know things in the world and are well prepared. And again, like Devaney said earlier, ask their input. Like, what do you think we should do for like physical education? Like you could give them 10 ideas and say, what sounds fun to you? But something I tell my clients, not only Cardigan Academy clients, but in mental health, my parenting philosophy is I don't like the idea of a hierarchy of like parents are here and kids are here. It makes me so uncomfortable. They are people. So I actually think of them as my equals, but just that I'm older and have more life experience. Like it is our job to protect them and guide them and help them. So there is that. But I don't know. I feel like when people say you're their parent, not their friend, I completely disagree that those are 2 separate things. I think you can be both. And so a lot of times just being able to sit down with your kid and say, what do we do? What should we do for writing? And now you're the team coming up with a solution rather than you telling them, and then they have ownership in it too. And it kind of bonds you together, because then you're like two friends hanging out saying, what are we going to do? And you're tackling it. It's actually kind of great.
Yeah, we need to write 5 sentences. I'll write one, and then it's your turn. So you're doing it together as a team, and it just flows so much better. Sometimes my son's dictating math to me and I'm writing it down for him, because he's not a strong, he doesn't like handwriting. And so I know he knows it, but he might just need a little bit of understanding and assistance with that. And the beauty of home education is you can do that where a teacher with 30 kids couldn't. So again, going back to, you get to this year, you get to do that beside your kid instead of we have to do these things.
And it often takes even less time, because it's you and your kids, and not somebody said to me recently, like, wow, they got all their schoolwork done so fast, you know, and they're like, are they doing enough? And then they looked and they're like, wow, they're doing great. It's just that they didn't have to sit there and wait for 20 other kids to turn to page 12 and finish.
And then we have these bins for each day of the week where we put, I know a lot of people with young kids are saying, what do I do when they are done by noon? So these are just some screen-free, not that I think screens are all bad either, but these are just some fun things that they know anytime they're done, or anytime they need a brain break, maybe in the middle of math, they've done a couple and they need to go switch gears for a little bit. My kids are getting very good at knowing when they need a break. And again, that's a life skill that we're all going to need as adults.
And it amazes me to see our kids know themselves. I feel like my kids know themselves so much better than I did at their age, and something I had to learn in adulthood. It's amazing. Good question.
Very cool. Thank you so much, both, for being here. Thank you. Thanks for everybody who's been watching, either on Zoom or on Facebook. We are going to post the replay. I am going to end it now since we don't seem to have any more questions. But if there is a question, you can certainly post that in the Facebook page. I will have the replay up, and you can contact Stacey and Devaney directly at the Cardigan Academy, right? What's the website?
CardiganAcademy.com.
Perfect. So certainly reach out to them. I'm sure you guys work with other people that are in other states possibly than Pennsylvania, so there's not like a rule that if somebody's watching. Cool.
No, we can work with everybody.
Very cool. So thank you all for being here, participating with the Find Calm Here community. As I mentioned, findcalmhere.com is where you can find the rest of our Find Calm Here events for September and beyond. We've got lots of events, so please subscribe on findcalmhere.com. The replay will land in your inbox if you do subscribe, and I will post that up on the YouTube channel after this call. So thanks everybody for participating and joining in the conversation. Thanks Stacey and Devaney for allowing us to have a little bit of expertise around your specialty here, this homeschooling. Any resources that you guys have or anything like that, we can share in the community, or again, you can contact them and they can give you any other charts or any other recommendations that they have about apps or things like that. So, all right. Thank you. All right. Well, have a good night, guys.
Thanks.
See you later.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.